let's move in to our member segment. I like to play my little quick step here to sort of cleanse the palate, if you will. We are going to be talking about campaign games. We just spent an hour talking about Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. That's a campaign game. Is it our favorite? We will find out. Jesse and I are going to swap back and forth as we walk you through our 5 favorite campaign board games. Oh, Jesse, you know what? Before we do this, I didn't even ask you. Have you played the Gloomhaven video game?
I haven't yet because I was really excited about it when it first came out when I only had a Mac. I didn't have a PC, but now I have a PC, so I might check it out, actually.
Just last week, they dropped the multiplayer beta. So we can now play multiplayer, it's not just solo. So
hey,
let's give that a try this week, my friend, if we have time.
Okay, all right.
I really like it. It's fun, and I'm excited to try out the multiplayer. And I think David Gillison has been itching for it, so maybe the 3 of us can get a game going.
Okay, all right.
All right. That was a diversion. I have to shame myself for that really quick.
Shame.
There we go.
Shame.
All right, let's get into our top 5 campaign board games of all time. Jesse, you're the guest. I'd love you to start us off with your number 5.
Well, we did talk a little bit about my number 5 already, which was Seventh Continent.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't know. We already talked about it. I wish I could. Can I borrow it for again? If you're, you sold it. You sold it. So no. And it's so expensive. I will never buy it. Unfortunately, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I was intrigued by that game. I also, I don't know that Alex will play it with me again.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. And I think it might be a little too much for Finn even. It's a little complex. It's fiddly, but I was really, really intrigued by it. I was trying to think about how many campaign games there are and not to be confused with like War of the Ring is considered a campaign game in a sense.
It's one campaign. I mean, it's a game.
Right. I know that's not what you meant, like when we were talking about doing campaign games, but that is considered a campaign game, and so is Twilight Struggle, by the way. But not, So I'm just trying to, differentiate.
Well, I'll define what I mean by campaign games. Is a game with a collection of interconnected scenarios that tell a story. Usually, there is a progression system. In which characters get stronger or better or progress in some way, and an overall story is told with designated pause breaks where we go, we have completed that. Let us prepare for the next. That to me is what a campaign game is.
One game that I wish was I have not been able to play yet, partly because you guys don't like these kinds of games. But it's considered a campaign game, at least according to BGG, is Nemesis. I've been dying to play that game. I've heard great things. But I don't know.
I don't know if there's the overall campaign. I know there's definitely like scenarios. But yeah, I would definitely be down to try Nemesis out. I have one of their other game, their actual campaign game, Tainted Grail, I have here. And I think you would really enjoy that. We should try to play
Fall of Avalon? Okay.
Yeah, I have that one. That is their straight up campaign game. That is their version of Seventh Continent. I think it's a vast improvement over it. All right, my number 5 is my €1 entry into this, and I had never seen a Euro do a campaign system before, but I absolutely love Maracaibo's campaign system. Now, wait, what? Maracaibo, the Euro game by Alexander Pfister, the designer of Great Western Trail? What you say? There's a campaign here? There is. In fact, that's sort of the main way to play the game. Every time you play, there is a different card from the story deck that's brought out. And if you complete the objective on that card at some point, it's usually a quest that has to be fulfilled or some sort of target number that has to be hit with chits that you've got to get on there. You read the back of the card at the end of the round, and it progresses a story. And I actually found the story captivating. And the gameplay changes every time you play it. And I love the solo mode for Maracaibo. You could play it solo or with other people.
Sorry.
But what it does is it makes this very thinky, fun Euro 5% different every time you play it. And that
Mhm.
5% to me is enough to make each game interesting. And then there's also a story going on in the background that is not just some crap he threw together and pretended was a story. Like, it feels thought out and it feels interesting and fun. And I kind of am curious about where it goes. I mean, look, this isn't D&D. I'm not like diving deep into the story and lore here, but like, it's enough to keep it going. But what I really love is that every time I play the game, I set up where I last left off, and the game slightly changes every time, and it makes it takes the Euro idea. It's always the same game, same rules. I don't, but there's a couple extra tiles or a few extra cards, or what's really fun is that there's characters that start to be introduced that get mixed into the deck. And if you've played Maracaibo, it's a giant deck of cards, and so sometimes those new characters come out, sometimes they don't. But it always is sort of mixing up the game and making it different. And so it's a really fun spin on a campaign game. And I'm glad that it exists in the Euro space. That's Maracaibo.
Now, would you prefer that narrative over Gloomhaven?
What do you mean? Do I like the story more in Maracaibo than Gloomhaven?
Yeah, yeah.
No, not.
Okay, I'm just trying to put this in perspective because you didn't like the story about. That's the main thing you didn't like
Well,
about Gloomhaven.
I found the story
But the thing that you
not
find
very
really
captivating.
interesting about Maracaibo now is the story, and so
No,
I'm
no,
curious.
no. What I'm saying I like the most about Maracaibo is that every time I play it, it's slightly different, and the story is a lot better than I thought it would be. Which is basically, I thought it would be a 1 on 100 scale, and it's not. And so I was like, oh, I actually am sort of following the story. I didn't expect that. No. What I like most about it is that it leaves off gameplay wise, where in terms of like chits that are on the board or thing, it somehow changes in every time. And there's decisions I make about how it changes, and they're branching paths. And that's a cool twist to Euro games.
Yeah.
What's your number 4?
Pandemic Legacy.
Yeah.
I mean, so I've played 2 seasons now. Are there 3? Wait, how is it structured?
Pandemic Legacy Season 0. It's
Right.
coming out like right now, and
Cool.
people love it. I have not
Really?
heard one person who didn't say it was hands down
Ooh.
the best of them.
I really enjoy it. I could play it with Alex. Like, she was really worried about play. It seemed too big for her, and but I introduced her to Pandemic, just the straight up Pandemic, and we played a few of those. She goes, "Oh, I got that," and we beat it on like the hardest level, and she's like, "Yeah, okay, I like this game." And then we did the campaign, and she was really into it.
You
Actually,
completed it?
yep.
That's amazing.
I've done 2 of them. I mean, I did one, with Alfred a couple years ago, and then just with her in the second one. And
you got to do 0. It's because they switched it up. It's not a pandemic that's raging all over the world. It's, I think, like Cold War era spies, and so it's like the cubes are like spies and stuff now instead of diseases. But I don't know, man. The reviews are nuts. The reviews are so good, I almost want to play it, and I do not like Pandemic.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I will definitely try it. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, my wife and I got through half of Pandemic Legacy, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. And then we were like, we get it, and that's just because I don't like the game Pandemic. I just don't. It doesn't do anything for me.
I think it's actually a really genius game. It's not deep enough.
I agree with you. It's a brilliant design.
It is really elegant. I
agree 100% with you. It's a genius design. I just don't enjoy it. I don't like playing it.
I don't need to play it anymore, but I definitely, especially for people who are like casual gamers, like who, maybe venturing into something a little, it seems bigger, I guess. I don't know, but it's like it's a bunch of little puzzles. And I think it's a great sort of intro to, seemingly to bigger things.
Couldn't agree more.
But you must know it. You must know Pandemic. You have to play it.
I don't like it, and I still recommend it to people on the reg. My number 4 is a little bit of a cheat, but they're so similar, I think I can combine them. Mansions of Madness and Lord of the Rings: Journeys in Middle-earth. Why are these games together for me? Well, they are both miniatures on a map with an app guiding you through the story. And I can't pick one or the other. They're both the same to me. It's just sort of pick your theme. I think they're both fantastic iterations of Fantasy Flight's sort of app-based DM, which I think is wildly successful. It is sort of a dungeon master as an app. It does it all for you. I love Lord of the Rings. My son is named Strider. Obviously, I'll buy anything Lord of the Rings. This is a fantastic Lord of the Rings game. Mansions of Madness, not a huge HP Lovecraft person, but I enjoyed the system so much that I really got into it. Lord of the Rings is much more combat-based, and Mansions of Madness is much more escape room solvy. So if one of those sort of appeals to you more, I highly recommend this. And the campaigns are totally finishable. They're usually... I don't know, only a handful of scenarios strung together in a story. And then the DLC they do for these things is buy another campaign for, $9 digitally. And it just downloads on your iPad. And there's the next 7 scenarios with the story woven through. And you already own all the pieces you need to do it, which I really think as a system is great.
Model. Yeah. That's the model of the future. I mean, I think everyone's gonna be doing that.
What's your number?
I played a couple. I played a couple of those with you, and I enjoyed it. But I don't feel like I got to see enough of it to put it on my list.
Also, games I play solo.
Yeah. Well, maybe I can borrow it when you're done.
100%. What's your number 3?
My number 3, I think is maybe your number 1 or 2. And it's funny that you say you're not an H.P. Lovecraft fan. Because Arkham Horror is my number 3.
The board game or the card game?
Oh, the card game.
Yeah, the LCG.
Yeah. We played it together a couple times.
Yeah.
We played online. That was my first foray into Tabletop Simulator. And I wish I could play that more. Again, I haven't. I could probably play that solo, right? That's the one. Maybe I could probably do more solo.
Yeah, that's how I play it.
I know. I just keep waiting for more opportunities, and maybe I'll talk Alex into playing more. We did play, I think, once or twice or something, and she was tolerant. But we played a bit, and I did get some expansions and stuff, and I think it's interesting. And I almost don't want to spoil. I want to. I don't know. I don't know. I like the dark stuff. I don't know what's wrong with me.
I'm with you. My number 3 is also Arkham Horror, the LCG. We have the same place. So I'll play a little theme song for us.
Shame.
Here. There we go.
Shame.
We both have the same number 3. Arkham Horror, the LCG is my favorite LCG. That's not Netrunner. My favorite living LCG. My favorite living card game. It is brilliant and so fun. You build a character, you deck build, and then you take it through a scenario. But that scenario then links to another and another and another, and your character levels up. Your deck improves. You get better cards. You purchase new cards. You level up other cards. It's so fun, the progression system, because I've never played a game before where a deck of cards that I've built, much like a Magic deck or a deck you'd play in a tournament game, is taken on a journey. And cards in the deck, then, you get the level 2 version of this card and the level 3 version of this card, and the cards get better and the scenario gets harder. And these are also completable. Like, one of the great things about this system is you can just buy the base game and then buy a campaign that sounds fun to you. Buy 7 packs, right? You don't have to buy every pack they've ever put out. You just buy one storyline. And then, do some reviews, see which storylines are getting good reviews or which sound cool to you, and then buy that storyline. Or it's such a more palatable decision financially to,
because you also have very, they say, you can play, you can play with people, can be same characters, and then you can have copies of the card, but it's you do kind of both have to get the core box, right? So
I'd say that. Yeah, I probably bought 2 cores. I would imagine that. Yeah,
I think you could turn into a money suck, but
nothing compared to Game of Thrones, where you have to buy every pack and just to keep up with the cards. You get to pick and choose here, which is a big deal. Look, all LCGs are money sucks. This is just less of a money suck than the rest.
But it's great tone. It's really rich in theme, and Well,
Yeah.
it's HP Lovecraft, but
This is the Marvel LCG is this, but instead of a campaign, it's just one scenario, right? You just take some superheroes against one villain, and this is that, but strung out through 7 or 8 scenarios. And they're of course going to eventually do a campaign for Marvel, but this is their best version so far, I think, of the campaign version of LCGs.
All right. So my number 2. Now this was my guess for potentially your number 1.
Are we going to have the same number 1? I'm interested.
No, I don't think so. But I actually think that this could have been my number 1 if I'd played it more.
Ooh.
And the few times that we played it, I fell absolutely in love. And I'm really sad that we haven't played it more. And that's Kingdom Death Monster.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, man, it just feels like for keeps, and it's just like over eras, different families, and I don't know. How do you describe the game?
Well, why don't we hold off on this because it is later on my list?
Oh, is it?
Yes.
All right. Let's do that.
Hold off, and we'll discuss it when we get there.
All right. Well, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Too Many Bones. I love me some Chip Theory games, and I love me most of all Too Many Bones. Too Many Bones is a scenario game, but the scenarios are strung together in these small bite-sized campaigns. I think you see a theme here of the type of campaign games I like. I like campaign games that I can complete. I don't like ones that go on for hundreds of hours that I'll never see the end of. I like one that I can complete in 1 to 2 sittings. That's ideal for me. Too Many Bones is that. You string together a series of little scenarios that end in a boss fight that you can usually beat in a night, 2 nights tops. And it's a lovely little campaign where you see a whole story and your characters grow and there's events that come out, and it's all done with poker chips and mouse pad material mats. And it's a lovely tactile experience, and the mechanics are wonderful. And it is maybe my favorite solo game of all time. It's definitely up there. And it's fantastic. And they even have a super campaign version where you can take these campaigns and string multiple campaigns together into a giant campaign that one of the expansions allowed you to do. And I love it. Have you played Too Many Bones, Jesse?
Yes. Yeah, we played a few times. I noticed that you mentioned you liked the story. Now, how would you compare the story to Gloomhaven?
Much simpler. All the entire story is done on like a handful of cards, which I guess so there's not all this where you open to page 8 and read an introduction and then read a conclusion. So to me, sometimes less is more, and the fact that there's very little story. But much like Gloomhaven, it's such an original take on the fantasy genre. It's these strange little Peter Froud-esque sort of elves and gnomes and weird little forest creatures. And it's such a sort of interesting and new world they created, which is very similar to Gloomhaven. I really like when people do a fun twist on a familiar genre. And yeah, the story does come through to me, but the story is mostly in the progression of your character. The story is mostly in like, now my character has a giant gun that shoots rockets and grenades, and oh, have I been saving up for this for the entire game, and I am going to do some damage on this boss. That's the main story.
So your story, you appreciate stories that directly affect your ability to kick ass in a game.
Well, I like stories that are more character-based than narrative-based. Yes, I enjoy more, especially in a board game. Well, I mean, I'm only talking about board games. That's not the stories I like in general. But I mostly like when I feel the character that I'm playing as, or the character that I'm playing, or other people are playing at around me. I like when I see those change, or the character change, or the way they play the character change. That to me is a more interesting, the type of story I'm more likely to get its hooks into me than, you're doing a fetch quest for an innkeeper or something, which then leads to, some nefarious crime you uncover, which, but that kind of stuff just gets I glaze over a little bit in board games when they do that.
I mean, because you're kind of doing the same thing in this. You're gearing up and, you get, OP thing and you get to
Yeah.
kick ass in the
The
game.
story though is really generated by just some random event cards that come out that sort of allow you to sort of
No. Those are like C storylines. But like there's a narrative,
No, I was talking about Too Many Bones.
Oh, gotcha.
No, no,
Sorry.
no. There is a full narrative in Gloomhaven. I agree. No, 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 no. I'm Too Many Bones just has some random event cards, and to me, the less is more there. Like there's such little tiny story that you just get little snippets, and I feel like it allows you to sort of fill in the rest.
All right. Yeah. Fair enough.
What is your number one? And I think I know what it is.
You might be surprised.
Oh,
It's Rubik's Cube Legacy.
oh my G! I knew it. Congratulations to the Spiel des Jahres. And let me play a celebration song there, Jesse.
Shame.
Come on. If somebody was making Rubik's Cube Legacy, would you not play that?
Sure, I'd play it. Sure, absolutely.
Okay, I got to get the right.
Gloomhaven or Jaws of the Lion is your number one?
Well, I would say Gloomhaven. And again, I don't know. If I play more Kingdom Death Monster, who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know. That could be, but right now, I think Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven's probably my number 1 or 2 board game between that and Try to Struggle.
I feel honored that I got to review it with you.
I was so bummed when we started this right after like the Gloomhaven. That was the one I wanted to start with.
Yeah, sure,
and we were kind of I forget why we didn't do it, because I think we were trying to do more. We weren't actually at the beginning. We weren't doing more like relevant games. Now we were doing like what represents us. But I don't know. But yeah, I was glad that Try Struggle was my first one. Or was
it? Jesse, when Frosthaven is delivered to me, and if the pandemic is over, there's only one person I'm going to play Frosthaven with.
All right.
And if they're not free, I'm going to call you.
Oh, did you hear my heartbreak?
Yeah, I did. No, I'll definitely.
I thought this whole speech you were giving about like, and unless somebody's living with me and blah, 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 I was like, okay, where's your
I'm going to make an exception for you, Jesse, because you love it so much. And that make your enthusiasm, fans the flames of my enthusiasm. And I will find time to play it with you.
All right. Let's hear your number one. I can't wait.
My number one is Kingdom Death Monster.
What?
I love Kingdom Death Monster. I love it so much. This to me is what Gloomhaven is to other people, I think. I get the feeling that people get from Gloomhaven about Kingdom Death Monster. Kingdom Death Monster is that crazy, is the story that hooks me, is the world that I'm so excited about, the mystery that I can't wait to unfold, where the mechanics and the narrative come together perfectly for me, where I don't care if I lose because I am down to do it again because it's going to be different the next time. This is the game where I just wish I had more time to play it, and I wish I had more people to play it with. I own a lot of KDM, and I spend probably more time building the miniatures than I do playing the game. I am going to do a full campaign by myself as solo, which I've never played it solo, which maybe shows you how much I love it. Like I want to play it with others because it is so. It is a wonder to me. It's the closest anyone's ever come to actually doing Dungeons and Dragons, the board game, and not thematically, but just in the sense of like how immersed I get in the story and my character and the world and wanting to see how it all unfolds. It's such a weird game. It's such a tough game, but I don't care if I lose, because it's like the loop of the game is so fun, and I don't mind getting sent back to my town. It's very similar to Darkest Dungeon in that it is a game where totally. To me, it's Darkest Dungeon, the board game, in a lot of ways, just with a lot more going on, because like I don't care if my character dies. I don't care if I lose, because I probably brought something back that's going to improve my town. And that's going to make all my guys, all my, my heroes going forward stronger and going to further the overall story. And who knows what weird stuff's going to show up, back at the town when I return to it. Yeah. So it's like, I don't care if I lose. Like, I don't care about my characters. Like, I get invested in them, but like, it's fun when they die because you get to open to a page of the book and you get to find out what happens in their death. And like, it usually gives you some cool stuff, or it psychologically damages some other character that was with them and saw them die. And now for the rest of the game, like, you're worried they're going to go nuts and kill everyone in your camp because they saw some horrible stuff that gave them PTSD. And like, the game is so crazy and wildly R-rated and emotionally inappropriate in so many ways.
Yes.
And has, and I will just say, has some extremely problematic, horribly sexist art that I've never bought. And like, he's Poots, the designer, sells all of this. I'm just not an anime guy, and like, there's a lot of just like weird hentai stuff going on there that like does not come in the core box, but like you could buy it separately, and like I just try to pretend that isn't there. But because
aside from that, I will say like certain games do this, but Kingdom Death Monster does this on another level. I feel like where everything feels special and powerful, just imbued with so much weight, gravitas. Every the I don't know, the figures, the booklet, everything just feels significant. The story, and like, and you know, because you were like reading from the booklet what was happening. We were going to town. And for once, I was actually drawn every word that you were saying.
Totally.
And that is a compliment, because I always tune out whenever you're talking.
No, I literally heard nothing you just said.
What?
KDM is also like a stupidly expensive game. It's a lifestyle game. I've probably spent $500 on KDM, but I don't regret it. And it's a ridiculous amount of money just to, you know, buy it.
And by the way, so let me take that and contrast that to Gloomhaven, because those could have been miniatures, and Gloomhaven could have been a $500 game.
100%.
But he made these. Why not just put them little cardboard little tokens and then put them in a stand? It's fine. I don't need the figurines. It's lovely when your friend $500 and wants to show you these figurines, and I'll play with them. It's fun. Yeah. It's more fun that way. But I am perfectly happy spending a fifth of that, and because there is so much story in Gloomhaven that it's a big box, but it could have been huge.
Yeah. So I would be fine if I never bought another game with a miniature in it. If plastic disappeared off the planet and everyone just decided from now on all miniatures were cardboard standees, I would have no problem with that. But the Gloomhaven ones are a little bit different in that I think it's as exciting to him to design these characters, which seem to defy gravity, a lot of them, in the way these models are made, and are pretty revolutionary, I think, in terms of miniature design. And they take days to put together, and they're stupidly complicated, and you have to watch like 5 tutorials to figure out like how to put them together, and that's part of the fun if you get into that stuff. But
how would you say, how many pieces would you say the largest one was?
Oh, hundreds. I mean, like,
really?
I don't know. Yeah, like,
really? One piece?
Some of them are. I mean, they're like building Gundam models. They're like absurd and complicated, and like, yeah, there's some crazy stuff. Yeah. Anyway, we're edging on our 2-hour mark. Yeah. I think those are our favorite campaign games. Those are our 5. I think we've covered a lot. Look, some honorable mentions that I will just say here. Cloudspire, I love the solo campaign there. Seafall, I had a lot of fun playing Seafall. Didn't make my top 5. A lot of people don't like it. I really enjoyed Seafall.
I haven't played it.
It's a Euro legacy game that failed in a lot of ways, but succeeded in a lot else. Arcadia Quest, I really like Arcadia Quest. It's sort of my favorite dice chucking, one night campaign PvP game. I think it's really fun. It's probably my second favorite Eric Lang design after Chaos in the Old World. Avalon Tainted Grail, which is sort of the Kingdom Death Monster version of Seventh Continent, which I would love to play with you, Jesse. And the only reason it's not on my top 5 is because I haven't played enough of it. But what I have played, I really like. And Mechs vs. Minions, I think, was a really fun campaign that probably would be in my top 10. I really enjoyed it. And of course, Gloomhaven.
I was waiting for that. You did. I was like, not in your top 5. Yeah. No honorable mention. Okay, but there it is.
Sure, honorable mention, and then of course Gloomhaven. If I'm being really honest, it's my number 6. It just didn't quite make the cut. And look, I probably was being a jerk to not put it at number 5, but I just think Maracaibo deserves a mention as an interesting campaign game. So if you want in your head to, listen to this
Shame.
while you switch my number 5 to Gloomhaven and my number 6 to Maracaibo, I will no grant you that.
Shame.
You can totally shame me for it, and just know that my Gloomhaven is probably number 5 and Maracaibo 6. But whatever, leave me alone.
Do you have the rights to that soundbite, by the way?
I don't have the rights to anything we're doing, Jesse. I don't have the rights to.
We're getting shut down.
Yeah.
No, by the way, Gloomhaven I'm seeing on Amazon is $102, $100.
Which Gloomhaven? The original.
The original
Yeah.
Gloomhaven.
Yeah. The MSRP is $120, and you usually can find it at retailers for around $100.
Yeah.
I would wait for Frosthaven if that'll be the same price, and it's going to have 5 years of Isaac's all the things he learned from Gloomhaven. There's no way it's not going to be better than Gloomhaven because he's become a better designer over time, and it's the same game with just improvement. So I think it will be improved.
Yeah,
I would wait for that. Hey, if you enjoyed that video, you very well might enjoy the other videos you now see being suggested to you on screen. Also, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could like, share, or subscribe to our Game Brain channel. Thanks so much.